Okay, good morning, Norton, Kansas. Good morning, America. This is Justin Wieland at Seeking Context, and I'm speaking today with Scott Sproul, who is the CEO of the Northwest Kansas Economic Innovation Center.
It's a long word, I get it.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on here, so you have to have a long name. And we're going to learn about promoting economic development and innovation in Western Kansas and in general. And so thanks very much for speaking with me today.
Yeah, great to be here. Thanks so much for the opportunity.
Okay, so my first sort of inquiry is, what is this place? What is the Northwest Kansas Economic Innovation Center?
We're kind of a different organization. We're a private operating foundation that was formed by the Dane G. Hansen Foundation 6 years ago to work on behalf of economic development for our 26 county area. So we cover a quarter of the landmass of Kansas, mostly rural. There's 2 counties that are a little different, but most of the counties are about the same population, have a lot of the same diversity in our economy and those type of things. But 2 population centers in Ellis County and Saline we cover, but the rest of it, everything's pretty much the same.
Cool. And what do you do here?
Yeah, so what we do a lot of things actually. We're looking at some of the hard things that are plaguing our area, like housing, daycare, workforce, finance. Some of those are a lot of the things that we do. We're working on in those fields. We started the organization basically as a finance organization. So we were a gap financer for different companies that were in the region that wanted to expand, maybe didn't have all the capital, maybe couldn't get the capital. And then what was really interesting is we've morphed more into a workforce type of organization. So we're helping companies find the workforce they need, if it's specific skill sets they're looking for, or if there's different things that they can't find in our area. And we help them circulate those and try to get those filled.
That's cool. So on that initiative, you have a job site.
Right.
Is that just one component of the
job? That's one component. There's several prongs to it, but that was just formed this last year. We were hearing from different manufacturers and companies across our region that they're saying, hey, is there a place where I can actually get talent to look at our opportunities? And are there places that can actually let that talent put their story out there so our companies can actually reach out to them? Mm-hmm. So we started Connect Northwest Kansas, and that's the first component of Connect Northwest Kansas. It's connectnorthwestkansas.org. And that site is a place that aggregates all of the jobs that are open in the region and puts it out there. And it's a great tool for economic developers because they don't have to maintain their own job sites as well. So,
and you mean like for the city and county organizations around the region?
Right, exactly. Yeah, the economic development groups that have had to maintain their own job sites, now they maybe don't have to. Mm-hmm. They can choose ours and use our organization for that. So, and we really didn't have a place that just people from Northwest Kansas and people that want to move to Northwest Kansas can actually upload their information. So employers can see that, and now we have that opportunity right now. We're also expanding that. We just working with an organization called Next Gen Roundup for Youth. They're actually going to be posting all of their apprenticeships and internships and those type of things on our site as well. So
that's cool.
We're excited about that because that'll hopefully bridge that younger generation into finding out what jobs are available. Additionally, if they apply for apprenticeship that's, let's say, in the medical field, maybe nursing might be an example, it'll actually populate all those jobs that are nursing underneath that, so they could see what job opportunities are available if they went and got the schooling and came back to the area.
Right. Have you seen any success or challenges in like convincing people to take jobs in this area? I mean, I know that most companies are having a tough time finding the talent, and then how do we convince people?
Yeah, exactly. That's a great question. So I think when people are wanting to move to this area, they're looking for several things. They're looking for a great quality of life. They're looking for, maybe a place that's not as high cost of living.
Mm-hmm.
They're looking for a place that they can raise their family in a safe, secure environment, and good schools. I mean, that's the top things that we keep hearing, that people not from our area are moving here because of those things. And those are things that we often take for granted. We know we have good schools. We know we have a relatively safe area to live in. And we often, as natives of Northwest Kansas, we take that for granted. And it's just refreshing to see that from the multiple people that have moved into our region recently, and that they tout that those are the things that really attracted them to Northwest Kansas. We actually had a group that were a family that moved in from the Washington State area, and they quoted saying, if we would have known that this was the way you lived here 20 years ago, we'd have been here 20 years ago. And it's just that knowledge of Northwest Kansas and being able to just expand your wings here. And that's one of our mottos is expand your wings in Northwest Kansas. It's a great place to build your career.
You mentioned housing.
Yeah.
Oakley, I'm from Oakley. There's
Mm-hmm.
no housing available. How is the situation here in Norton, or I guess in the region, as you view it from your viewpoint?
Absolutely, yeah. That's probably one of the biggest challenges we have. I would say two of the biggest challenges that we have to get people to move here is housing and daycare or childcare. Mm-hmm. Those are the two of the things that, if they're wanting to expand their family, can be a hindrance for them to come here. And then also just the available housing stock. As I mentioned, there are lots of people that actually moved to the region recently during the pandemic, which is a great thing. We love having people, and even diversifying our region even more by having people that aren't originally from here bringing their ideas and thoughts in. And but one of the things we continually hear is the housing stock is just not available. And it's just compounded that with people coming into our area. I'm not complaining. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying that is an issue, is housing and childcare.
And are there, do you think the housing is a private sector solution, or are nonprofits helping?
Yeah, I don't,
is anything working where a community has built 20 houses and then now they're available?
Yeah, and in a lot of our larger communities, I'll take Hayes for an example. Doug Williams there, the Economic Development Director at Grow Hayes, has been able to secure some private funds and then work on the governmental side and really bridge some really great housing complex that's being built right now in 2021 and 2022. So I think there are some options that are coming up. It's looking like a private sector, a public sector combination, maybe even into the more specifics, the governmental side. We're really excited about what the state has done for the state housing assessment. Has given us some great data to follow based on income levels, based on what the need is. We're actually going to be doing some deep dive into that over the next couple months. So I think it's a combination of all. I know here in Norton County, Mike Pawson, the Economic Development Director, has developed a 7-pronged approach to housing and developed a program that he's willing to share with other economic development groups. And I know that I think other counties, I know Republic County is one that has housing programs that have really come into play. So I really like the fact that these counties are working together to try to solve that issue, because it's not just a county issue, it's a region issue, it's a state issue, it's a national issue. But I think the way we're doing it in Northwest Kansas is kind of a bottom-up approach, where we're involving the private sector, we're involving the governmental entities and the state of Kansas as well.
How about daycare?
Oh my goodness, that's a tough one. I mean, I'm just going to be really blunt with you and honest. The childcare issue is probably one of our biggest issues because it's an issue that's about economics. It's an issue that is about, the people that actually want to do that. It's not something that you're going to make 6 figures on and those type of things. And really, they're handling our most precious resource in the region. I mean, our board has said that multiple times that, I mean, our most precious resources are children and our families in the region. And if we're challenging these daycare and childcare centers to be supportive of those different entities, and the economics just aren't there. It's a tough row to hoe, and I think we've started some things. It is not the end all be all. We started with some grants to childcare centers and group homes that will incentivize daycare workers to stay there for longevity by some bonuses and those type of things. We also are helping with some of the resources that they need to get different supplies and those type of things. We're talking about, this is not done yet, so we're trying to figure it out. We're talking about a service center. Can we provide more resources to childcare centers that may allow them to maybe concentrate more on the children and let us do some of the heavy work on the business side? I don't know where that ends up, but I just know that we're actively working on that. Not only our organization, but the Hansen Foundation as well is really keyed in on that. So
yeah,
there's no quick, easy fix though. And that's the hard and frustrating part, is that if there was, we just do it and be done, right? But it's an ongoing issue. It's about capacity. It's about the resources they have. It's about the pay and all those type of things.
So you don't have an example of one community that just figured this out?
Well, we've got some that are working on that. We've got several different models that are out there of where they're looking at putting multiple in-home daycares, community-owned, together, and trying to make sure that those resources are there for the longevity. A lot of times an in-home daycare will come and go as the person wants to re-enter the workforce, and that's challenging for a community because then they got to start all over again with resources and those type of things. The center model is tough because there's a lot of regulation to it. The group home and in-home daycare seems to be less restrictive, but you can't get as many kids in it. So we do have some communities that are really attacking this in a very proactive way. I know in Russell, Kansas, we're able to help another in-home daycare open up under the same license. I know in Sheridan County, they're working on multiple opportunities, possibly even using a duplex for, two in-home daycares where they could share playground and kitchen and those type of things. So there's a lot of resources going into childcare right now, and I think that that's going to provide a great avenue for us to actually get some things figured out in the long term.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah. So no great magic.
No magic wand
for that.
Good housing and childcare.
Yeah, but I think we're making some really good efforts in it. And as far as housing, from that respect, we're looking at all technologies. Financing and the different technologies. A couple of our board members and myself, we had an opportunity early this year, 2021 actually, to go to Richmond, Virginia, and see the first 3D house being printed. So that was a really interesting opportunity. I think we're about a year off from being able to see that as being more of a widespread opportunity. We're working with a company that's been around for 30 years in Ellis County called Waffle Creek that has an opportunity to build custom panels out of concrete. And the way it's built, they're not as heavy as a typical solid wall, but basically goes together like an erector set. So you can basically put the structure of your house together in a day and put a stucco finish on it, and it looks just like a stucco house. And, different panel type opportunities that are out there. We actually have an architect that's working with us right now, trying to hone in on some of those costs and compare those costs and try to figure out what's great for the region. And yes, right. I think it is going to be a multi-pronged approach. I mean, some communities are going to have different housing standards or different type of houses they want in there. Right. So we're looking at everything.
Everything's local.
Yeah, we're hoping to keep it all local. We as many times as we can, as far as if we can support businesses that are in our region, we obviously want to do that.
Right. Right. Well, and when you say you sort of have two jobs, right? Or
Right.
at least two that I know of.
Right.
So you're on you run the Innovation Center, but you're also on the board of the Norton Community Foundation.
Yeah.
And so can you just like explain what the difference in those two organizations is?
Yeah. It's kind of interesting. 6 years ago, when the Dane G. Hansen Foundation formed our organization, they also started supporting the local community foundations. They saw the fact that if we make our local community foundations strong in our counties, they're going to be able to help themselves later. If we're able to build funds, endowments, and those type of things. With that being said, I was on the local community foundation board before we started the regional effort for the Innovation Center. And I stayed on that board because I saw the vision of what they were trying to do to community foundations across the region and build them into mini Hansens, if you will. I've really wanted to see both sides of those expand, and that's why I'm on both organizations. And from a standpoint of the region, when you look at what the community foundations have been able to do since the inception of this program, is return millions of dollars to the region to actually do some of the things that we need done, like daycare, maybe housing, maybe supporting nonprofits, so that money can be other money can be spread to other things. So I think it's a hand-in-hand thing. Previous to doing the Innovation Center, I was actually at County Economic Development. And one of the things that I'm most proud of that stint before doing the regional side is bridging the foundation, economic development, chamber, tourism, all into one, not one entity, but one seamless working group. And I think that's one thing that if somebody came to one of the organizational developers and said, hey, I need XYZ to help get this thing done, right? They could come to any one of us and say that, and then we would all, as a team, try to figure that out. And I think that effort and that cohesion is necessary in small rural communities to make sure that we're putting our best foot forward and making things happen.
Yeah. Any advice on how you actually bring everybody together? Is it just a lot of talking?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, a lot of talking, yeah, for sure. But, I think that making sure that everybody still feels like they're their own entity, but yet that there's something greater going to happen if we work together. I think that's the end goal. And once you realize that and you start seeing the success of the collaboration, it's monumental. I mean, it's something that whether there's, you always have the people that don't want anything to happen, but you can sustain those and keep moving forward if you're a group and an entity and not on an island. So it's really powerful.
Yeah. You said something earlier that you feel like the community foundations are a bunch of mini Hansens.
We hope they will be, yes.
I think I know what that means, but can you explain what is Dane Hansen?
Yeah.
And then what is the community foundation sort of movement that their initiative around this 26 county region has, how does that work? Or what's the sort of, how can you encapsulate that concept?
I'm glad you brought that up because I kind of glazed over that. The Dane G. Hansen Foundation is a foundation that's been for years working on behalf of community development, trying to make sure the region's putting its best foot forward. They've done scholarships, they've done a lot of nonprofit grants, governmental grants, and those type of things. And 6 years ago, the reason they switched into the economic development world is they're sitting here thinking, okay, well, we've got all these things going, but if we don't help the businesses thrive and we don't get more people to move to the region, how many people are going to be in the region at that point when, if we don't have any business expansions. So that's kind of a long drawn out way of saying that's why they got into economic development and making sure our region was strong. But the Hansen Foundation was started by Dane G. Hansen He was a entrepreneur of many things, from doing construction when construction was happening through the interstate and those type of things, to selling mules to the Army and different things of that nature through his career, and lumber yards and different things of that nature. I mean, he was a see a need, fill a need kind of guy. And he was able to take his accumulated assets and develop a wonderful opportunity for Northwest Kansas. He started the foundation with one of his confidants. Cy Moyer was one of the original trustees, that's still a trustee of the Hansen Foundation. And I remember Cy saying that, when Mr. Hansen was in the hospital and getting ready to pass, that he had $8 million that they put in the foundation, and now it's almost a $500 million foundation. And his comment to Cy was, "Do you think this will ever do any good?" And
that's what Dane Hansen said before he died.
Yeah. Then that's from I'm ad-libbing a little bit because it wasn't the exact way he's probably said it, but that's the story, is that he put this money in the foundation and hoped it would do good for the region. And I would say it did. I mean, when you take that and turn that into almost a $500 million foundation with the foresight and the great representation that the trustees have given it over the years since he's been gone. It's just, I mean, if you're from Northwest Kansas, you know about the Dane G. Hansen Foundation. It's a foundation that is all about making the region better and providing opportunities for the region.
Right. And I think your comment earlier is that the community foundation concept, at least what the Dane Hansen is encouraging, is communities to do that for themselves.
Absolutely.
If there's wealth locally, can you turn that into long-term benefit to not just your family?
Yeah, absolutely. If we had every county that had that sort of assets and wealth that they could, it would change so many things. It would wipe out the childcare issues. It would wipe out the housing issues. It would wipe those things out to where we're not worried about those things anymore. We're focused on sharing this wonderful life with everyone else, and creating great places for families to grow up and live. So,
right. Well, so tell me about, I'm curious about a few specific things with the economic
Innovation Center.
Innovation Center.
Yeah, gotcha.
What about you've got the business loan program and the business development program. So what are those?
Yeah, so the business loan program and the business development program are one and the same, but they've got different categories because different people apply for them. But I want to focus on the loan program. Our loan program is typically used as gap financiers. So let's say a company wants to get the financing to purchase out, or a potential employee wants to purchase a company from a business owner that's currently there. If there's a shortfall in funds to get that accomplished, we would be there to hopefully fill that gap. Businesses submit basically the business plan and our application, financials. Our board and staff reviews those and tries to put it in some kind of an organized form to where we can decide if that is a good investment, not only just for our benefit, but also we don't want someone to get into business the wrong way, because we don't want them to be hindered by that as well. 60% of our loan portfolio is succession plan businesses. So businesses that have transferred from one owner to another to keep that business going in Northwest Kansas. We have different clients in our loan pool. We've got manufacturers, we've got grocery stores, we've got essential services to communities. And economic development directors, when they refer those to us, a lot of times is how we get them. We ask them, is this an essential business to your community for it to thrive? And a lot of times it is. So that's how we get our loan clients, and that's how we hopefully help them in the future. We also do different financial reviews with them. So if something comes up and they're like, hey, how come I don't have any cash? How come I don't have XYZ? Or I need to expand. My market has really taken off. We actually go over those projections with them and hopefully help them expand in the right way.
And so are you taking on more risk? Like it's a client that like, a bank is just like, it's too on the edge and you're like, well, we'll go for it.
Yeah.
Is that typically the...
Yeah, you're right on. Yeah. We're more of a risk capital type of entity. So we'll take some more risk. And a lot of times we're the farthest capital position that you could get in a deal, even if maybe sometimes there's 4 or 5 partners that are funding it. We might be in the last. Sometimes we're in a first position on collateral if there are no other partners. We encourage other partners to come in. We work really well with the banking industry. We know that they're restrictive on some things that they can and can't do. And if they can do so much and then we can come in and fill the rest, we're happy to do that.
So you're not taking equity positions?
We can. We haven't yet, but we can take equity positions as well. But so that is an opportunity as well. If it's somebody that is saying, hey, I'm unsure of the cash flow of this for 3 or 4 years. Sometimes we could take an equity position. So it's just all. We haven't done it yet, but it wouldn't say that we would never do it either.
Right.
So.
But so you are taking sort of collateral. It's just usually the last person on the list.
Right. A lot of times.
If it goes under, you're unlikely to see your money back.
Right.
Or less likely.
Well, yeah, if it went bad, yes.
Right.
But hopefully we're making good decisions in that, and that we will get our return back so we can obviously loan that out to other people and other businesses.
Yeah, and do you have a pool of resources that's just ready? You got $4 million sitting over here to invest, or do you have like limited partners when somebody comes to you and says, I want to do this, and you have donors or investors that might take on those loan commitments?
Yeah, today we have our own pool of funds that we just pull out of. And obviously we get funds from the Dana G. Hansen Foundation to carry out our programs and opportunities.
Okay.
But we are always looking for other partners. If there are partners out there that like what we're doing in either finance, workforce development, or just strictly attracting people to the area or their community, we'd love to have conversations with them, and so where they could help and assist us with those funds, because it's not like we have unlimited funds. We have some funds to do all these things with, but they do get stretched pretty thin over 26 counties. So
yeah. And what about, so you've got the rural and remote program.
Yeah,
what's that?
It's really interesting. So about 6 months before the pandemic even reached the United States in New York, we started this program called Rural and Remote. It's a place where we taught people how to be remote workers and even had a training component with that. Well, fast forward through the pandemic, now we're not teaching people what remote work is. A lot of people know what that is. It's just kind of interesting how that program has evolved through the pandemic. And it's basically a program where we go over the components of being a remote worker and teaching you what being a good remote worker is, and hopefully connecting you with the right job opportunities to get a remote job. So you can stay in the area, maybe add some more income to your family, or those type of things. I know we've had some conversations with Farm Bureau, and they love the fact that there might be an opportunity where you can add another income to a family farm. And that's a game changer when you're sitting there looking at the economics of farming from time to time, whether the commodities are up or down, and trying to figure out, okay, how are we going to make this work? And remote work is a great opportunity to do that. So we also have a training component with that, more in the computer sciences, where we can train people on computer coding. They learn 8 different languages. I can't recite them all right now, but we support them in that respect, where we actually help pay for that training if they're going to stay in our area.
And so do people, if you wanted to participate in this, you go to your website and apply to be one of these apprentices or
absolutely
students?
Yeah. Or just a learner, if you will. I don't know what the student, I guess.
Okay.
But go to ruleandremote.org, spell it out, ruleandremote.org. And or you can go to the Innovation Center website, which is nwkeici.org. You can go to that page and it links up as well. And Gretchen Staples is our manager for the Rule and Remote program. What she does is when you apply to Rule and Remote, she'll contact you and ask you several questions on about Rule and Remote or remote work, what your expectations are, how dedicated are you to this. And then if it's just a thing where you have the competencies you need and just are looking for the opportunity, she'll help you with that. If it's something where you're looking for additional computer coding training or that sort of thing, that's when she'll hand you over to Maria Delquist, and Maria is actually the one that will help you through that. So we have a two-pronged approach. We have the computer coding side, which is a side that we see a lot of potential growth in the region. And then we also, if you're an accountant, if you're a personal assistant, if you're anything of that nature, marketing, any kind of different competencies like that, they can help you find remote work for all of those things. So It's really, really unique and really exciting.
Yeah. And so somebody that doesn't have a job opportunity in front of them can sort of use this to find one of those opportunities.
Absolutely.
And then get the training to be able to be qualified to apply for that job.
Absolutely. And they'll help you noodling through the ways that you get a remote job too, training on how to interact with somebody if you're trying to get a remote job and those type of things. It's quite different than actually just walking into an office and having an interview. So there's little tests that are there, how quick do you respond, and how fluent are you when you respond, and those type of things. And it's a little different, and it's really eye-opening to us of the different payroll revenues that are brought back to our communities that aren't from companies that are in Northwest Kansas. And even if they're a company in Northwest Kansas, we see a lot of our companies that are really struggling to find that right person for a specific skill set, looking to Rule and Remote to be able to fill those needs. And I think that's really encouraging to see that from our own companies in Northwest Kansas.
Right. Might not be in your town, but 90 miles or 100 miles away.
Yeah, it's really a regional approach, and I'm really excited for the opportunities that we've been able to secure there through the work of Gretchen and Maria, and their ability to. They know a lot of partners out there that are hiring people, and I think if you are looking for a way for your son, daughter, granddaughter, grandson to move back to the region to have that job that they've always wanted, whether they're going to be providing some extra care to you as a Northwest Kansas resident, or if they wanted to come here just to live here because they love it here, but they didn't know what kind of a job they could get, Rule and Remote ought to be a good fit for them.
That's cool. Over the 6 years of your program, beyond this Rule and Remote, are there any other good success stories with a particular company or an initiative that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I'm really excited about some of the things that we're seeing. A lot of our portfolio in our loan program is manufacturing. I'm really encouraged with what we're seeing, how busy and how well our manufacturers are doing through the pandemic and here on. I think the biggest challenge for them is going to be workforce. And that's up to us and regional support to be able to hopefully create an environment or the right incentives for them to want to take these jobs. So we are going to be launching our new incentive program that is going to be coming on in 2022. So we're going to be actually allowing counties to take some of our funds and incentivize certain jobs that maybe are hard to fill, maybe ones that are very integral to the community and the region to make sure that manufacturer stays there, that manufacturer grows. There's a lot of opportunity with that, and we're going to put that in the county's hands. They know what's best. We're going to allow them to make those decisions. And it's a very, very bottom-up approach, and I like that because We can't be everywhere and know what every county's needs are. So the economic development groups or community foundations in those counties are going to have some ability to go make a statement to where we can get the proper workforce into the region.
And so that's like funds to like make somebody's salary more competitive with.
Yeah, probably more of a sign-on type thing, but unless the company wants to, match that as a salary for, it's kind of however it works.
Right.
And we're excited about what we're going to see come back into. Excuse me. And the different creativeness of each county and how they put their plans together. It's going to give us a really good handle on what is actually out there for workforce. Is there needing to be some more investment in welding programs or XYZ because there's such a great need? We're going to get that data back, and that's going to be really helpful for us to develop more programs. I guess one of the most exciting things is we were able to help a startup company get started about a year ago by offering some apprenticeships to do different jobs in the cryptocurrency world, which is a really interesting new opportunity. I mean, banking and currency is changing. And I think it's exciting to me to see companies that are out there trying to grab onto these new ideas and create a business out of it. Mm-hmm. So we offered apprenticeships to a company that was able to go out and create a training program and then attach it to another company in the Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley is, as most everybody knows, is where a lot of the tech startups happen, and the different tech companies are built in the Silicon Valley. Well, what's interesting is a lot of these companies are outsourcing to India and even Mexico and different countries out there that created some challenges. I mean, from language barrier to timing of time frames and all that sort of thing. When they're sleeping, we're working, and vice versa. And the price point in Northwest Kansas is very competitive to be able to create these technical jobs in our region. And I mean, that company is doing remarkably well. They are getting people placed into this parent company that they're actually training for, and we're offsetting some of that initial cost where they're maybe not as productive. Mm-hmm. And it's a game changer because we're taking this community that the startups in, and I mean, creating with our investment of $250,000 has created almost 1.5 million in new payroll. Now that's a game changer when you look at a small rural community that has open vacant spaces and can fill those spaces, invest in them, and create that payroll that's coming into the community from an outside entity. And that investment is hopefully going to transfer over 7 times with those local businesses. Because they're either
local spending.
They're local spending. Yeah, thank you. The opportunity for that to just explode in a town, a region, is absolutely there. And that's one of the things that we're really going to be hyper focused on in the next year from a business development standpoint, is how can we scale that out? And so these are
these people here in Norton? Are they the new employees that they're bringing on that are physically locating here? Are they from here, or are people moving here, or is it both?
That's a great question. It's actually a mix. There were people that were underemployed that had an opportunity to move up, and then people had an opportunity to take their jobs. There were people that heard about it and moved to the region, and it's kind of a mix of both. But in order to scale it, we're going to have to be hyper focused on colleges, technical colleges, community colleges, people that already know our region and willing to come back here, but just didn't have that right opportunity. And if we expand that educational opportunity there to where we're actually investing in that in the front end, we believe it's going to pay dividends in the future.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, you mentioned earlier today when we were on a tour, we're sitting in the, what's the name
Heaton
of the building?
building? Yeah.
Heaton
Uh-huh,
building.
uh-huh.
That the local foundation, community foundation, has renovated and turned into a number of business spaces. And so there's one space that you're looking to use for this program. Is that right? Or is it related to it?
Yeah, well, yeah, that same concept, I mean, a lot of places are actually developing co-working spaces, co-working spaces where collaboration can happen and opportunities that may be unrealized because they're working in their house and they can't collaborate with somebody else. Great examples of that are marketing people that are sitting in a co-working space and they meet an executive that needs a marketing person, and then they are able to join to be able to make something great happen in their business. So co-working spaces are popping up all over the region. There's actually a state website that I can't recite right now, but that has all the co-working spaces on it. I think it's kansascoworking.com, but I'll need to double check that. But all of these communities, I say all, most all, have a space that's renovated and has an opportunity to do what we've been able to do in this other community. And I think that if communities really circle around and look at these opportunities that we're seeing and invest in those for your community's standpoint, there's going to be opportunities that are going to come up, especially when we're able to take what we've done so far and scale that out. Eventually that'll spill into other communities. We're confident.
Yeah, that's really cool. Well, I'm curious on a personal level. So how did you get involved? What's your path to becoming the CEO of an economic innovation center?
Yeah, it's kind of an odd path. It's kind of, but not really, I guess. I went to school at Colby Community College and then went to Fort Hays State and was able to come back and run our family's custom harvesting business for years and years and years. And seeing the countryside, seeing the United States through those eyes, I was convinced after I did that there was no other place that I wanted to live other than back home in Northwest Kansas.
So was your family's, like your harvest crew, like you start down at the south of Texas and end up in Canada?
We started in northern Texas and ended up about 15 miles from the Canadian border.
Okay.
We cut, wheats, obviously small grains, and then we cut barley for Budweiser and Coors when we were up in Montana. And so it was kind of an interesting thing. And then we come back here and do fall crops once we were done with that, because it was time when we got back here. And then I yearned for more. And starting a family, I obviously wanted to not be on the road 6 months out of the year. So we switched out of that and went to work for a local technology company, Nextech, in Lenora, Kansas. And through that, I really started to get involved in the community aspect of being at a local telecom, and really got bit by the bug, and really excited about some of the things that I saw in communities. I really saw a lot more potential that I felt like I could maybe help them realize. That's when I really got excited about economic development and chamber work and business work. And then went from there, decided, well, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, right? So I went to county economic development and stayed there for about 5 years and really got my feet wet on figuring out what programs, opportunities are out there and trying to blend all those together with the private sector and figuring out what finance really means in a small rural community. And was able to jump from there into this regional role with the Henson Foundation and the EICI.
So did you create your job? Or did they create this job and then you got recruited?
Yeah,
what happened there?
Yeah, it was a really interesting conversation. The gentleman that I mentioned before, Cy Moyer, and he was one of Mr. Hanson's business partners, and trustee, he called me one afternoon. I think it was a Friday afternoon, like at 3 o'clock, and said, "Hey, come on over." And so, when Cy calls, you go, right?
Mhm.
And so anyway, him and I had become good friends through the work that I did, and through some other connections as well. And showed me a paper and said, "This is what we want to do, and would you do it and take the reins and build it out from there?" And
so it was their board's idea.
It was their board's idea, yeah. But it had to be a separate entity. They really can't work with the for-profit entities. We do work with for-profit entities. They work a lot with the nonprofits. So it's kind of a nice, happy blend too.
Mm-hmm.
But we are a standalone organization with our own resources, obviously they've given us,
right.
and those type of things. So, at the beginning, we were looking for mostly a finance organization. It's blended more into a workforce, finance, and then everything else that needs some work.
Right. Well, so are you not a 501c then? Are you?
We are
something else.
We're a 501c3. We are a 501c3 private operating foundation. So we're a little bit different. There's probably not a lot of private operating foundations in the region,
mm-hmm.
but we are one. So we own our own programs. We own our own staff and those type of things. So we develop all those, and part of being a private operating foundation is we've got to administer those programs ourselves as well.
Okay. I'm curious because there's been discussions at the Logan County Community Foundation that if a 501c gets too involved in promoting economic development, it can risk their nonprofit status.
Yeah.
So how does that balance work to make sure that it's per the IRS rules and also ethically committed to the structure that you are legally under?
Yeah, it's kind of a delicate balance. There are different rules for 501c3s depending on what classification you are. It also depends on what your charter says you're going to do. I mean, if your charter says that I'm working in economic development, as long as there's certain lines you don't cross with private earnment and different things of that nature, which is a whole different discussion point. That's probably a whole day in itself. There's specific rules that you can't do with a 501c3, and there's things you can do, but you just have to look at those. And I would encourage anybody that's wanting to change their charter or change any type of operations that they're doing to consult a foundational attorney, because that's the best way to really know if you're in bounds or not.
Right. Well, so over the course of your harvesting
I know, it's crazy.
And economic development and innovation, any thoughts on how communities can foster innovation and attract talent? Just sort of general lessons on how to make this all work effectively.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I think one of the reasons that the region is really turning a corner is because of some of the structures that have been put in place, like the strategic doing, where you talk about the community issues, you put a community together to work on those, you take it to that next level in another 30 days, another 30 days, another 30 days. It just doesn't sit on the shelf and collect dust as an issue. Hopefully a community is working on those things if it's that important to be on that strategic doing matrix. And one of the things that I think is really interesting is Nadine Siegel, which used to be with the extension, is now with the Dane G. Hansen Foundation. And she has gone around and did the first impressions. And that is basically what does somebody new coming into your community look at when they see your community? Do they see that you're welcoming? Do they see that you're got a lot of junky houses? Do they see that you got a really nice housing development going in? Those things that have been done in the past have all been done for a reason, to show what needs to be worked on, what could be worked on, how you can work on it, and taking it to that next level. And I think all those steps that communities have been through already culminate into economic development that can be done with our organization. I don't think they stop. I think you continually have to do that. And that's why it's so important to have so much buy-in from the private sector, from a subset of that, the business sector and different entities, nonprofits within the region. And if we're all going in the same direction, at some point, you're going to see some real life changes that make your community better and more attractive for people to live in.
Yeah, but the optics matter to the newcomer.
It does. It tremendously. They're coming here because of, like I said before, the safety, the availability of, being able to do what they can do. They're bringing their jobs with them, a lot of them. But if you don't create the optics of what they want when they get here, or when they're driving by, and we've heard hundreds of people that have said, why did you move here? Well, we were driving by and it was a really neat little town. Mm-hmm. And somebody said hi to me when I went into the quake shop. And it's like those little things that we take for granted every day is why we're winning through a pandemic.
Yeah. Well, it does feel like there's a migration away from urban to, rural or local.
Absolutely. Rural is the new cool. I mean, it really is, because when you look at people that have moved here from the Front Range, they're going back to the Front Range, working 2 days, maybe 4 days a month. And then the rest of those days they're here. And it's really remarkable to see.
How about any advice for like the innovators, the business people themselves?
Oh, yeah.
If you've seen like success stories on how are people that are really crushing it getting there?
Yeah. They're getting there mainly because of a never give up strategy. I mean, a lot of people that are innovators from Northwest Kansas, it's bred into them that they have a never give up strategy. And I think that if you have that strategy and that mindset, I think you can get there. What we can do is look at the opportunities, look at the product, look at the finances and all those things, and hopefully put you on a path to where you can be successful. Doesn't happen all the time. I mean, we are an organization that's going to be honest with you. If this has already been done and it didn't work, and if there's not enough change in it to make it a new product or a new something, we're going to be honest with you, because we don't want you to spend your money on something that has not been fully researched. We also have resource partners out there like the Technology Development Institute out of Manhattan that can do patent searches, they can do patent development, they can do product development, shop drawings, and those type of things. So we have a lot of resources out there that we can refer you to get some of those things done that we may not have the expertise in. Mm-hmm. And I think through all of our partners, I think we've got a pretty well-oiled machine for an entrepreneur.
Is that organization you just mentioned, like they're doing it on a pro bono basis, or?
Sometimes because, and the reason sometimes they do it is because they sometimes get grants from the federal government to be able to help entrepreneurs do those things. There's sometimes where they actually, they do have to charge if they don't have an open grant where they could put it into. It's kind of a case-by-case basis, but we're also a referral agent for Department of Commerce. They've got some new programs out there that will help people get those things done if TDI doesn't have an open grant or something. Mm-hmm. But we know where all those pockets of resources are. So call us, get hold of us, email us through our website, and we'd be happy to help any entrepreneur.
Cool. Yeah. Do you think people know about you?
Yeah, that's kind of been a challenge, to be honest with you. We in the beginning, we really focused on just having referrals from the economic development directors. Sometimes there's people that really don't know that ecosystem even exists. Mm-hmm. So we've hired a marketing company to actually go out and market our organization. So we're telling businesses to go market yourself, and we're not marketing ourselves. So that was really interesting.
You're doing podcasts.
Right, exactly. So this is great. But we're working on that. It's especially for the Connect Northwest Kansas, the rural and remote, the hands-on things that they may not think of going through an economic development agency for is primarily the reason why we're marketing ourselves more.
Yeah, that's cool. And what about the future? You got big goals for the next year, 5 years, 10 years?
We do. We have a lot of big goals. I mean, obviously, one is launching our incentive program and seeing how that helps economic development agencies. And if it doesn't, we'll pivot and do something else. And I'm deeply committed to this childcare issue. I mean, as like I said before, these childcare centers and daycares are handling our most precious resource, and it's not looked in some eyes as a glamorous opportunity, but yet it is probably one of the most important jobs in our region of all. And, figuring out how we develop housing to a sustainable state. I mean, we've got to figure out how to get housing going. We have an example of 3 counties that have 350 new jobs coming. And where are we going to get the people, and where are we going to put them, and where are we going to put their kids?
Just from manufacturing or
different manufacturing and just new scaled businesses that are coming. I mean, those are small rural communities that have to take, along with us, along with all the other resource partners, has to take a concentrated effort to get housing and childcare accomplished. We have to do it, because if not, these businesses are not going to look at us. We get one chance to show a business that we're here, we're ready to get the workforce for them, we're ready to make this happen. And this is not a regional thing. This is a nationwide crisis. And we're deeply committed to try to help those things get further.
So that situation, you're saying like there is a company that's going to open a plant or a division here if the people that they could hire had a place to live.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and it's all over the region. It's not just these 3 counties that I mentioned. I mean, there are opportunities everywhere in our region, and people want to expand, but those are the limiting factors. So we as a region, as a county, as state of Kansas, we have to take a concentrated effort to make sure that gets done.
Well, you're leading the charge.
I don't know. There's a lot of people leading that charge. We're just one small piece of it.
All right, so. You're on the ship.
All right, I'm on the ship.
All right, cool. Well, any other closing? We talked about success stories. I didn't want to, if you had some other exciting, story or something from.
Yeah, I think we kind of covered most of it, but cool. I mean, there's a lot of other things we work in, a lot of other things we do. But if you have some concepts about housing, daycare, and things that you really feel would work for your community, reach out to us or reach out to your local economic development group. That'd probably be a great place to start. Mm-hmm. And let's go figure this out.
And so, if a person or a county has, let's say, a childcare or a housing idea, maybe they would want to get grant funded or something. Like, do you also do grants? Or do you direct them to how to do a grant through Hanson or some other national nonprofit? Yeah,
that's a good question. Yeah, so we're learning every day of more opportunities in childcare and housing where there are funding pockets. Not all of them are available right now, but we are that we are working hard to find all of those funding pockets so we can put those into play whenever there's opportunities out there.
All right.
And so yes, we direct them where there's funding pockets. Do we always know where all of them are? Or because there's a lot of emerging pockets with this COVID money and these type of things that are coming up that we're trying to sit down and figure out how do we get some of that for our region and how do we invest in it. So,
right. All right. Well, thanks. We'll
just leave it
there. I appreciate this. It's exciting to find out. We'll have to do a recap in 2 years and see if the situation has improved or.
Let's do it. I'm excited.
All right. Well, great to speak with you today. Have a good week, and I will talk to everyone later. Thanks.